Operation Rail Severance. The night Russia's supply chain collapsed. The setup. October 12, 2025, 2:47 a.m. Deep in Russian territory, 560 miles from Ukraine's border, a precision operation unfolds in the pre-dawn darkness near Novocherkassk. A partisan cell lies concealed just 300 feet from vital railway infrastructure. Their weapon of choice cuts through the night at 115 miles per hour, a Switchblade 600 loitering munition. Russian security forces sleep soundly, unaware of the catastrophe about to unfold. The drone's objective isn't the obvious target. Instead of striking the armored locomotive directly, the mission focuses on something far more valuable: the signal control infrastructure that commands train movements across this sector. This wasn't improvisation. Months of intelligence gathering by ATESH operatives working alongside Russian defectors had meticulously mapped every detail of this 12-mile rail corridor. They possessed exact timetables for ammunition movements, including tonight's cargo: a 2,000-ton train carrying 2,000 rounds of 150mm artillery shells destined for the front. Nauru, exploiting the gap. The reconnaissance revealed a critical vulnerability in Russia's air defense network. The Nebo-M radar system, despite its sophistication, suffered from a fundamental design limitation. Its 3.6-degree upward tilt created a low-altitude blind spot. This narrow corridor near ground level became the perfect infiltration route for small, unmanned systems. But technological advantages alone wouldn't guarantee success. The partisans needed psychological warfare to tip the scales. ATESH intelligence officers began circulating carefully crafted disinformation about FSB counterintelligence penetrating Rostov command structures. The paranoia took root quickly. Russian commanders, suddenly suspicious of everyone around them, slashed nighttime patrol schedules by 50%. The strategic importance couldn't be overstated. This single rail line functioned as the primary logistics artery, supplying 60% of all artillery ammunition and rocket systems to the Zaporizhzhia and Kherson operational theaters. Destroying it would starve Russia's entire southern axis. The defense network. Yet the mission remained extraordinarily dangerous. Recent upgrades had installed Pantsir S-1 systems with 360-degree radar coverage specifically calibrated to intercept small drones at ranges exceeding 2.5 miles. Additionally, Lear-3 electronic warfare platforms blanketed the region with GPS denial across a 150-mile radius. The fundamental challenge wasn't simply penetrating these defenses once. The real problem was that striking the initial target would immediately alert every defensive system within a 12-mile radius, creating a countdown to annihilation. Phase 1. Immobilization. 2:51 a.m. The ammunition train crosses into the predetermined engagement zone. The ATESH operator doesn't target the locomotive itself. Hitting a moving armored target would be low-probability gambling. The strategy demonstrates far greater sophistication. First principle: transform a mobile problem into a stationary one. The command goes out. Miles away, the Switchblade 600 begins its terminal approach toward a small concrete signal box, the electronic nervous system controlling this entire rail section. The drone's 34-pound shaped charge detonates precisely on target. A focused jet of superheated metal punches through reinforced concrete, instantly destroying the delicate control electronics inside. Inside the locomotive cab, the engineer watches his control panel flash crimson warnings. The signal ahead goes dark. Railway protocol is absolute. No signal equals immediate emergency stop. He activates the braking system. The shriek of metal against metal reverberates for miles as thousands of tons grind to a halt. The target is now fixed in place. Fakru. Phase 2. Destruction. This moment represents the culmination of careful preparation. Exploiting the reduced patrol presence their psychological operations had engineered, partisans had spent the previous night emplacing M18A1 Claymore mines along the track, hidden beneath gravel and debris to evade detection. With the train positioned exactly where needed, the operator transmits the second command. A radio signal triggers multiple mines simultaneously. Each claymore unleashes 700 steel ball bearings traveling at nearly 4,000 feet per second. The projectiles don't merely cut the rails, they devastate the infrastructure, ripping heavy steel from concrete moorings and warping the tracks into impassable wreckage. The path forward ceases to exist. The train and its volatile cargo sit completely immobilized. The alarm sounds explosive energy on this scale cannot remain undetected. The detonations generate massive thermal and electromagnetic signatures that light up Russian sensors. 12 miles distant, at a Nebo-M radar installation, warning systems activate. An operator, moments earlier fighting drowsiness, now stares at unmistakable contacts. Something significant just occurred. The counter-operation begins immediately. At 2:54 a.m., the Panzer S-1 battery receives engagement authorization. Its phased array radar begins sweeping the threat axis, hunting for targets. Ukrainian planners had anticipated this response. The instant the Panzer systems went active, 3 distinct radar returns appeared on Russian screens. These were Bayraktar TB2 drones, launched hours earlier on high conspicuous flight paths. Their entire purpose: serve as bait. Obvious, predictable, irresistible. The Russian system responds exactly as predicted. Within seconds, 57 E-6 missiles launch skyward, destroying the decoys in brilliant explosions. To the operators, the mathematics appear favorable. 3 threats detected, 3 threats eliminated. Mission accomplished. They've just fallen for the oldest deception in warfare. The real threat. While Russian attention focused on the decoys, the actual danger approached from an entirely different vector. A 4th drone, a captured Russian Orlan 10, heavily modified by Ukrainian engineers, closes on its objective. This aircraft isn't being remotely piloted. It operates autonomously on pre-programmed waypoints, navigating via inertial guidance and optical terrain matching. By continuously comparing ground features with stored satellite imagery, it maintains course without any radio link that electronic warfare could disrupt. You cannot jam a drone that isn't receiving commands. This aircraft has one mission: electronic deception. It begins broadcasting a powerful X-band signature precisely mimicking the targeting radar of a high-priority Ukrainian missile system. To the Panzer's targeting computer, having just engaged the easy targets, this new signal represents a critical threat. The system acquires lock, calculates firing solution. 6 57 E-6 missiles, over $500,000 in hardware, streak into the night. But their seekers aren't tracking the Orlan 10 or the partisan team. They've locked onto the spoofed signal's broadcast origin, 2 miles away at a poorly defended Russian ammunition storage facility. The impact proves catastrophic. Missiles designed to shred aircraft with tungsten fragments tear through thin storage bunker roofs. Microseconds later, 15,000 pounds of 122mm artillery shells detonate in a sympathetic chain reaction. A massive fireball punches 300 feet into the night sky, temporarily transforming darkness into daylight. Russia just orchestrated its own fireworks display, and Ukraine never struck a match. The hunter arrives, 2:58 a.m. A conflagration this massive doesn't just draw attention, it triggers violent response. From a nearby airfield, an Mi-28 Havoc attack helicopter lifts off. This isn't an automated system reacting to data. This is a dedicated hunter-killer armed with Vickers anti-tank missiles, tasked with locating and eliminating the source of this humiliation. The Adish team had outsmarted computer systems. Now they must survive a gunship. The Mi-28 isn't guessing. Its thermal imaging systems scan the precise vector provided by the Nebo-M. Within seconds, acquisition. Not the drone, something better, a small cluster of heat signatures on the ground, human bodies, and residual thermal energy from their electronic equipment. The partisan cell. From a standoff distance of 5 miles, the pilot receives authorization and launches a Vickers missile. Traveling at Mach 1.8, it will cover the distance in 14 seconds. For the partisans, this represents the endgame. You cannot outrun supersonic weapons, but you can blind them. The team leader activates their final countermeasure, a crude homemade radio frequency jammer. It lacks sophistication, essentially a power source connected to an antenna designed for one purpose: broadcast powerful, chaotic signals on the 5.8 GHz frequency. The Vickers radar seeker, expecting clean guidance signals for terminal approach, encounters a wall of electronic noise. It cannot distinguish target from static. 9 seconds into flight, the missile's internal logic fails. It veers off course and detonates harmlessly in an empty field, a flash of wasted firepower. The Havoc pilot is stunned. Russia's last card. Russian forces activate another system. The Peresvet, not a jammer, but a high-powered laser designed to physically burn out delicate optical sensors on incoming drones. They assume the partisans must have drone support and are attempting to blind Ukrainian aerial assets. The problem? Ukraine's final weapon isn't watching. It's being manually piloted. This is the ace. From a concealed position 1 mile away, a second Ukrainian team launches a swarm of 20 FPV drones. Each is a home-built quadcopter carrying a 2-pound C4 charge. They aren't autonomous. Each operator wears a VR headset, flying their drone manually through a direct fiber optic link. The Peresvet laser is useless. It cannot disable sensors that aren't being used for guidance. The operators fly by instinct and muscle memory, guided by a physical tether immune to electronic warfare. Their target isn't the helicopter. It's the primary logistics bridge connecting Novocherkassk to the front lines. The swarm accelerates to 60 mph, a cloud of purpose-built weapons flying below treetop level. The Havoc's pilot detects them on radar, but too late. He cannot possibly engage 20 individual fast-moving targets simultaneously. Structural collapse. The FPV drones impact the bridge's concrete support pillars in rapid succession. A single 2-pound charge constitutes a nuisance. 40 pounds of C4 detonated on identical load-bearing points within seconds functions like a professional demolition crew's equipment. Understanding the devastation requires examining the physics. This wasn't one large explosion. It was a scientifically orchestrated demolition sequence. The initial impacts acted like chisels, blasting away weathered outer concrete and exposing the critical steel rebar infrastructure beneath. Subsequent drones detonated their charges directly against the bridge's internal support structure, like a boxer's combination, jabs setting up the knockout blow. Each C4 charge, when detonated in direct contact with weakened pillars, generated shock waves exceeding 30,000 pounds per square inch. This immense focused pressure didn't merely push concrete, it created microfractures spreading through the structure like lightning. 20 rapid-fire shock waves acted as a relentless jackhammer, pulverizing structural integrity from within. The result, total structural failure. Pillars, no longer capable of supporting the immense bridge span weight, simply disintegrated. The 600-foot bridge shudders. A deep groan echoes through the valley as steel support beams tear apart under stress. Then, with a final deafening crack, the central span collapses into the river below, taking tons of railway track with it. The Havoc pilot, out of Vickers missiles and with his primary objective now rubble, has no choice but to retreat. 1. Exfiltration. In the chaos, as Russian emergency services scramble toward the burning depot and collapsed bridge, the Atesh team executes their withdrawal. The massive ammunition depot fireball created a chaotic diversion, pulling Russian forces toward the blaze. Under cover of this widespread panic, the partisans don't run. They melt back into darkness following pre-planned exfiltration routes. Mission complete. They have severed the artery. Now they watch the body bleed. The aftermath. The night's final accounting proves staggering. One critical ammunition depot holding 15,000 pounds of artillery shells, now a crater, 500 feet of primary railway line, twisted into unrecognizable scrap, a $20 million strategic bridge at the bottom of a river. The night erupts in sirens as Russian emergency services race in 3 directions simultaneously. FSB and Spetsnaz units swarm the area, but their first priority isn't rescue. It's containment, creating a media blackout and preventing documentation. Hours later, satellite imagery confirms absolute success in 14 high-resolution frames, showing a 30-foot chasm where the bridge stood and a railway line that simply ceased to exist. Strategic impact. The true damage wasn't measured in twisted steel. It was measured in strategic paralysis. This single coordinated strike triggered a domino effect rippling to the front lines. First, logistics died. The ammunition flow to Zaporizhzhia and Kherson fronts, 60% of total supply, didn't slow. It stopped completely. The stranded train and 3 more backed up behind it were going nowhere. Second, artillery fell silent. Hundreds of Russian artillery pieces, the backbone of their southern assault, became useless iron monuments. They had the guns, but the shells needed to feed them sat on the wrong side of a collapsed bridge 300 miles away. Third, command structure turned on itself. The FSB mole rumors, carefully planted months earlier, blossomed into full-blown paranoia. Russian commanders, suspecting betrayal at every level, refused to coordinate. Meetings devolved into shouting matches. For 72 critical hours, while they hunted ghosts and pointed fingers, the entire Southern Command was paralyzed. While Russia's command structure was in self-inflicted chaos, Ukraine pushed forward, exploiting the silence of Russian guns to advance 3.5 miles along the Zaporizhzhia front. Moscow officially termed the incident a temporary logistical disruption. Ukraine called it Tuesday. Conclusion. With a handful of $400 drones, a dedicated partisan team, and a brilliantly executed plan, Ukraine transformed a billion-dollar Russian supply line into worthless rubble. The operation proved that in modern warfare, the victor isn't the side with the most expensive weapons. It's the side that employs them with the most terrifying ingenuity. The question. If you were the Atesh commander, what would you target next with remaining assets? The main fuel depot or the Nebo M radar installation itself?